marks the official town hall finales. It is also the foundation for our next step for the Nutley Board of Education in this community as we discuss our next, that we discussed in our original timeline early back in January. Just wanted to thank again all the staff that's here tonight, all the board members. We have our mayor sitting here with us tonight as well. I don't see any other commissioners, but I know they've been supportive of being out at these meetings when they can be. And we really big thank you from the Board of Ed to see all of you out here supporting this. And I have to admit, that may have been the fastest 8 weeks that I can remember in my lifetime. But to reflect on the excitement and the nervousness of that very first meeting on January 17th at Yanaclaw to our finale here tonight was just an amazing journey. And I use journey because as a board and as a community, we worked through 8 weeks of questions, concerns, and feedback, both energizing and synergistic. So 8 weeks in review, what have we done? January 17th, as I mentioned, we started at our first town hall at Yanaclaw, and that was followed by 2 consecutive meetings at both Washington and Lincoln schools. January 25th marked our first of 2 community teas, and then we went back to the school tour on February 1st at Swing Garden, and February 8th at Radcliffe School. The Radcliffe Forum included a work session prior to the scheduled meeting, and then we had another session at the public library on February 18th. On February 15th, we presented to the Planning and Zoning Board's joint annual meeting. And on February 28th, we had our second community tea at Cambridge Heights. Last week, we opened our survey to the entire community, and although the survey remains open until this Friday, March 10th, I can tell you that the initial response has been absolutely overwhelming. And that brings us to tonight, conducting this final town hall. We are scheduled to meet with the Rotary on March 23rd. The original date was rescheduled due to the February storm that we had. And we were also able to move a resolution at our public meeting in February to secure much-needed land from the Reformed Church to address the parking concerns in and around the middle school. So what's next? I'm going to turn the presentation over to our superintendent of schools, Dr. Julie Glazer, and she's going to talk about the transition. Similar to our normal format that we carry through with all of the town forums, our architect, Karen Rubino, are here this evening as well, and they'll detail some of the modifications to the original drawings, and our business administrator, Mrs. Karen Damons, will once again review the tax impact to the taxpayers here in Nutley. And we'll finish up with Dr. Glazer in the next phase of the process. And now at this time, I'd like to introduce our superintendent of schools, Dr. Julie Glazer.
Thanks to everybody who's joining us tonight. Whether you're here with us for the first time or the 6th time, for me this has been a wonderful, busy, but wonderful few months. I have been so very grateful to meet so many community members, and it's truly been my pleasure to listen and to learn from you all. Your insight, your perspectives, issues and concerns have raised important questions, and I'm hopeful that this is just the beginning of a process for expanding our district's infrastructure to meet the needs of our pre-K to 12 student population, for enhancing our educational program, and recommitting to meeting and exceeding our expectations for this school district, for our town, and for this community. Your input at the town halls, work sessions, community meetings, neighborhood gatherings, through the ideas feedback email, and through the survey have not only guided our process, but have provided us with a structure to our thoughts, has shaped what we are presenting in our final town hall meeting tonight before the Board of Education comes to its final decision of whether to move forward with the proposed building projects next week. Please make no mistake, we are not done listening, and we've only just begun to need your help if we're to move from concepts to the reality of these projects. Your active engagement is the only way that we're going to be able to continue to progress. You're an integral part of our educational system, and your voice, areas of expertise, and willingness to advocate for our schools and the culture of the town of Nutley, something that I think we all value, is a powerful asset. Before the end of tonight's presentation, I promise to remind you of all the various opportunities that you'll continue to have to give and receive information, but I know you're all pretty anxious to see what the Board of Education and the architects have refined, so I'm not going to keep you in suspense too much longer. The agreement with the Reformed Church that Danny mentioned is going to facilitate additional parking for the middle school. We're continuing to pursue off-site parking for our school buses, and we're looking to reconfigure some parking for the high school. There have actually been no changes to the proposed construction plans for the high school or middle school. I'm going to say that ever since you told us, raise the issue of that peeling paint on the side of the middle school, none of us have been able to unsee that. And we are pursuing quotes for finally taking care of it. We also heard you very clearly about the need for a study for student pickup and drop-off around Franklin Avenue. And as we progress, we'll also consider the means of delivery of goods and services to the middle school. Parking, pickup, drop-off, those are all issues that were also raised for Yannicott School. And with the help of Commissioner Petracca, the Nutley Police Department, and Principal Francia, thank you, there's been a concerted effort to begin to address those immediate concerns. I can't say a big enough thank you to all of them, and actually to all of you who have been cooperating to improve our current situation. We'll also do a study of the area around Yannicott and look to modify pickup and drop-off and to help better manage the current and future parking for the school and for its neighbors. Additionally, there have been modifications to the proposed construction plans for Washington as well as to the plans for Yannicott School. So at this time, I'd like to introduce you to our architect, Mr. Joe DeCara, who's going to detail those changes.
Thank you, Dr. Glazer. If we go to the next slide, as Dr. Glazer said, we've been working with the community and listening very carefully to the comments. And what I'd like to do is review the revisions that we made to Washington. As you can see, it's the same program. Generally, we're adding 6 classrooms. But what we did is we added a new multi-purpose room that would be similar in size, to the Yannicott School. And we would leave the existing multi-purpose room in its place. With the addition of that, we reconfigured the design, still trying to make a very efficient, compact plan for every square footage that you're building. You're building more educational space and circulation space. So if you look at the 2 drawings that are on the slide, you have the basement area to the left, and that shows to the upper left, the existing multi-purpose room, which is lower than the main floor. If you look at the plan to the right, it shows the shaded area. That's where the new multi-purpose room would go. It would go adjacent to the existing auditorium. And you can see it's almost similar size, but much wider though. And we're extending the existing corridor. You see the blue area, that's where the existing stair tower is that goes up the full number of stories in the facility. We're basically taking that, moving it over, sliding it down to the new location. So you have access from the new corridor to the multi-purpose room and the 2 classrooms at each level. If you go to now adjacent to that, we also have a kitchen storage and also toilets. As you can see, the upper 2 levels, we have the 2 classrooms. There are small areas in front of the first classroom, that is the elevator, and 2 separate individual toilets per floor that open up off the corridor for additional toilets for the additional population for the school. You can see a very compact plan. So the plan to the left, where you see the shaded area multi-purpose, that's the 2-story portion of the multi-purpose room. And then the 3rd level, again, the 2 classrooms, the extension of the stair tower that would then facilitate exiting out of the building safely. The existing multi-purpose room is remaining. The plans are to run the elevator in the first phase of the project down to that lower level. So in the future, you can recapture that space and utilize it for any additional classrooms or small group construction spaces in the future. But that would be accommodated in the first plan. The second, and then you can see the site. You can see the ball field on the top. The white area is the existing, and the shaded area is the new expansion. With the larger addition, you can see the angle of the property line on the left side, and we're kind of mimicking that, sawtoothing the addition back to meet the clear space required for the addition. So we look at the basic change, we're adding the 6 net classroom space.
construction of all the portable trailers, classrooms will be eliminated from the site. So on the right side, you can see the new stair tower, the new multi-purpose room with storage with adjacent toilets. On the right side, you see the new entrance, administration space with a secure entrance, the classroom addition, and the circulation. We go to the upper levels. You can see the upper part of the multi-purpose room and then the various additions that accommodate the classrooms and a few small legal structure spaces. On the site plan, if you see to the left of the facility, there's an existing paved play area. That is going to be relocated to the right side. It's a little hard to see from the back, but there are dash lines off to the right of the existing, of the new building. And that would basically be very similar in size to the macadam area that we're relocating. We have approximately 9,000 square feet of paved play area. Right now, based on the information we have, we probably get 7,500 to 8,000 square feet of play area. So it's very comparable in terms of what you're losing there to do a multi-purpose room versus what you're experiencing. And then the two entrances. Middle school, no change from what was presented the last time. Very quickly, 4 levels of addition onto the right side of the existing facility, 20 classrooms, multi-purpose room, and a cafeteria with various receiving areas. Slight renovations to the existing administration area, not the board office, but the administration area, to provide the entrances for the facility, new security measures. And then you have the multi-purpose room that would be on the same level inside of the existing gymnasium for access, control, and use, and the separation of loud areas versus quiet areas. And then the third level would be additional classrooms to accommodate the required number of classrooms. High school, again, no changes in it from the last presentations. You can see that the various colors, the media center is in beige. We're adding a new multimedia center that will go on the front of the building. The lavender purple color is the expansion of new physical education spaces that would handle a wide variety of functions. That would be located, creating a new access way to that area, and 2 spaces to accommodate the gym access and locker rooms. If you go to the upper level, there's no plan on that mid level. The upper level where the existing media center is, as I mentioned, we're relocating that really in front of the building. That would also include a TV studio. We're recapturing that space, which is very efficient in terms of size. We were able to carve out 4 additional classrooms in that area and 3 small group instructions. In that facility, based on the final program, you would have your STEM labs, STEAM labs, and a maker space that will be accommodated in the center of the space where students can utilize that new program. And with that, I'd like to introduce Kevin Davis, who will go over the cost.
Pen, I think, has become like the baton that we're passing from each other to each other. So as presented at all the previous town halls, district decisions and plans and needs have been guided by a strategic plan. And the same holds true for the budget development each year and long-term financial planning. When the Board of Education and Administration began planning for these future capital projects, building our capital reserve fund had become one of our priorities. At this time, the Board of Education is able to commit $2.4 million of its capital reserve fund to the projects being presented here this evening. This investment will reduce the total amount that needs to be bonded for these projects. So let's review each project once again with the associated cost estimates. Beginning with the Anticos. The total cost for the project is $14.5 million. And as Mr. DeCario just explained, it includes the new multi-purpose room, 3-story addition with 6 additional classrooms, toilet facilities, the relocation of the main office, the removal of the trailers, and built-in fixtures. At Washington School, cost estimate is $9.6 million for the new multipurpose room, 3-story addition of the 6 classrooms, toilet facilities, elevator, the removal of the trailers, built-in fixtures, and some loose furniture. At John H. Walker Middle School, $36.7 million for the 20 classrooms, cafeteria and service kitchen, multi-purpose room, toilet facilities, the new secure entrance, reconfiguration of main office wing, built-in fixtures, and loose furnishings. And finally, at Nutley High School, $9.58 million for the additional physical education multi-purpose space, renovations of the current media center TV studio, producing the 4 classrooms and common learning areas, and a new media center and TV studio and built-in fixtures. All of these estimates include fees for the architect, engineer, survey, construction manager, permits, and 10% set aside for contingencies throughout the construction phase. This brings the total for all 4 projects to $70.4 million. After we apply the $2.4 million of capital reserve funds, the total amount that needs to be bonded is $68 million. So what does this mean to the taxpayers of Nutley? The tax levy for the repayment of this debt is based upon the assessed value of a home or a business, not to be confused with the fair market value. Again, the assessed value is the dollar amount that is assigned to each property by the governing municipality to calculate property taxes. Now, the Board of Education has the ability and flexibility to split the bond sale, thereby reducing the impact of the taxes in the first year. So on that average assessed home, which is valued at $316,427, our financial advisors have estimated a bonding interest rate of 4.3%. We're looking at a 25-year repayment schedule. And we're taking a very conservative approach as to what the debt service aid will be from the state of New Jersey. Right now, we are taking a 10% debt service aid into consideration. We will not have that final number until the plans have been reviewed by the state and they make their determination. We are hopeful, however, that that number will increase, which will in turn reduce the tax impact. But currently, with these assumptions, the tax impact in the first year would be approximately $189.50, and then from years 2 to 25, about $379. This is an increase of $6 in the first year and $12 for every year thereafter from what we have originally presented at the initial town halls. And at this time, I'd like to turn things back to Dr. Glazer. Thanks, Karen. All right. Hopefully you think that that was some pretty exciting stuff. We were pretty proud to bring it to you. And we also hope that you're able to feel some ownership for what's been shared tonight. And also that you'll continue to collaborate with us. Truly, this is just the beginning. There is so much left for us to do. The first thing that's going to happen is on Monday, March 13th, the Board of Education will vote on a resolution to move forward with a referendum to fund these proposed construction projects. As always, at that meeting, there'll be time for public comment. The meeting will be held here in the middle school in the music room beginning at 6:30 p.m. An affirmative vote on the resolution would trigger all of our next steps. Mrs. Gibbons would work with the architects to do requests for proposals for environmental studies, for asbestos testing, soil investigation, boundary and partial topography land surveys. That will enable our architects to be able to finalize their drawings, costs, and plans, and be able to submit those to the State Department of Education. Additionally, on March 27th, for going to have a presentation from our communications director, Karen Greco. She'll be reviewing the results of the SurveyMonkey survey. By the way, that is still live until March 10th, so if you haven't already taken it, please do so. And a review of all the information that's going to become the Referendum tab on the district website. That'll include updates to our frequently asked questions document, the timeline for the referendum, how to contact us to give or receive additional information, and how to become part of a committee. The Townhall meeting tabs will transition into a referendum tab following the vote. We'll begin to form committees over the next several weeks, and we hope that you're going to be active on an ongoing basis throughout the rest of this project, and that does mean over the next several years. Wait, there's more. And that Ginsu knives are steamers. I think I just aged myself. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about, Ginsu knives and steamers? Anyway, during this time in April, the architects are going to continue to refine their drawings to be able to submit a final version to the state for approval. The state then has 90 days to review, ask questions, ask us for any revisions, and to determine what the debt service aid for the district is going to be. The approval from the state would be expected by June or July, and then the Board of Education would need to submit the question for the ballot to the County Board of Elections. We need to do that 60 days prior to any vote. The earliest that we would expect a referendum to be on the ballot would be September 27th. However, we have opportunities in November and December available if we don't meet those timelines. Upon an affirmative majority voting to approve the district's ability to bond for construction, the Board of Education would then begin the process of hiring the project manager, putting out bids for construction and other services, and selling bonds to fund the projects. The expectation would be that we have shovels in the ground June of 2018, and that students would be in their new instructional spaces September of 2020. Danny, would you like to bring us back to the actual open session? Thank you. You got that with the microphone.
So as we were talking, this is our section now where we are going to open up to questions and comments. A couple of things that we just want to talk about. We have a lot of time for questions and comments for the community. Similar to the regular public meetings, we're going to ask that everyone be allowed to speak once until everyone has had an opportunity to express their comments or ask their questions. We're going to try to keep that time to 3 minutes per person. And we're going to ask that you and try to maintain a friendly, comfortable environment so that everyone has an opportunity not only to make public comment, but for those not making comment, the opportunity to hear their fellow community members. So anyone who'd like to come up or walk out a mic and ask a question or comment.
Hi, I'm Virginia Riley, and I work at Washington School, and we really appreciate you having heard us about our concerns, and I am, and I guess I'm speaking maybe for everyone else, it should be, but I think most of us are very pleased with what has been done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Class dismissed.
Charlie, you want to say something?
No, thank you, Mr. President, except to congratulate the board for the job they've done. That's all.
Do you have a sense of what the rest of the community in Nutley feels? And we hear mostly parents and workers in the school district. sense about what others feel in town.
You know, trying to get the temperature and the climate in the community is always a difficult challenge because we know that the parents are on board for the majority. When we get to the other pieces of the community, the challenge is that we're all concerned about the same thing, that driving cost, the other variables within the community. I think the message that we're trying to get across, and I think that it's starting to build its track, is that this is about this district, this is about the anchor in this community, and this is about making sure that we have the space that we need for our kids and the generations after us to be successful. And if we made, you know, somebody made the investment for us, and we have to do it for those future generations. So I'm hopeful that our process is going to start to get out to the community and build momentum so that we are successful as we approach the September timeframe.
And I have to say, obviously, I'm new to the community, so a lot of the history, you know that from the Washington Townhall, is what I'm learning as we go along. And I've heard an awful lot about what came before, as far as construction projects, what's come before in different boards and different feelings of the town. And I have to tell you, in my short period of time here, I could not be, and I mean this more sincerely than you know, more proud of the community for coming out. Think how many times, literally, some of you have been here to hear this. For our board, who has put in tremendous hours to make sure that this process does look different than what came before them. That this process is transparent, that we are giving you an opportunity to tell us what you think, and we really are listening. And I'm hopeful that those things, as Danny said, resonates throughout the town. This is the best we have to offer for our kids, for the culture of the community. There really is not a plan B. So we're counting on you to continue to advocate, to continue to come out. As I said, this is the beginning. So do we ever know where anybody is? No, but for me, for those people that have been engaged in the process, for our board, for the administration, for all the people that have worked on this for so many years to bring us to this point, I couldn't be more positive myself.
Hi. You said you're going to pick, you worked out something with the Reformed Church for the middle school. What kind of parking, how many spots, and what are we looking at as far as how much you're going to pick up from them, and what are they, what are they allowing you?
Well, like I said, the property space that we purchased, or in the process of purchasing, I believe that the numbers now are between 50 and 60 spaces. Okay. So it's going to be about 50 parking spaces, and that property will be owned by us. Some of the details of if there's going to be any working relationships with the church would be redefined or defined better than it is now, but at this point we're purchasing that property with the intention to build space. That is not. The purchase is actually going to happen with funds that we have available within our budget, and so that will not affect the numbers that we see here for the referendum. Thank you. Yes, we're going to be around, so we're not up. We have one more.
I just want to remind my fellow homeowners that this $68.9 million referendum goes through. It's going to be detrimental to many of us homeowners who cannot afford to pay these already extremely high property taxes that have been imposed on us over the course of the past 12 years. And we've been through these referendums since 2003, and they failed. This is going to fail again, but this time we're going to be left with another bond that we're going to have to pay off in 25 years. We're still paying off the last bonds from 2003 through 2006. I've been here for 3 decades, and the thing is, the last referendum we had in 2006, that was supposed to be the referendum to end all referendums. And you know what? It didn't. So keep continuing this, and you're going to see a lot of people being forced out of their homes. And what's the point of having these nice schools that you guys keep talking about if the people are being forced out of their homes. That's what you're doing to us homeowners. We're already, the property tax bar has been set so high, so far in the past decade, you're gonna cleanse a lot of these homeowners out. I'm just letting you know, and a lot of people are gonna get pissed off. I speak for those people. I spoke to those homeowners, and they're pissed off, and we're tired of it. You guys gotta cap control and reduce your spending, your public sector spending with our money. Enough's enough already.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other comments?
Actually, that brings up an interesting question, and you probably did the mathematics. As we look at the homeowners and the number of people that live in Nutley, between what's going on in the Roche area, and that's going to do the residents, what do you see as the dynamics of more people coming into Nutley? What do you see as the in and out, leveling out, tax increase, whereabouts? Something in there in that question.
So, the Roche property's been sold to a developer. They make their own plans, we're not privy to that. Our demographer, when we went through our enrollment projections, did have the opportunity to get the best information available at the time. It will be developed at some point. We don't know what that will look like. So in all of our plans, and I think that Mr. DeCara did a really good job of explaining that, for every school, there is a contingency built in. If we have to add additional space, if we have to reconfigure the space into these plans. Our solution, based on all of the information we have currently, should be a 20-year solution. We should not be coming back again for another referendum. Most of what we've heard, and since you've asked, from the community is, we are supportive, but don't come back to me in 5 more years and ask me for more money. Don't come back to me in 7 more years and tell me that you didn't plan well. And I can tell you that this group of people has planned particularly well for the future. We, as you heard tonight, or maybe read in the paper or saw on TV, did participate in a joint planning and zoning board meeting, also with our Board of Commissioners a couple of weeks ago. We did share the number of students that are living in the different existing housing, whether single-family housing or other kind of housing here in Nutley, and what the impact of that is. We committed to making ongoing reports every year so that that information is clear. Our demographer has done the study out for the next 5 years for the elementary schools and 10 years to include the high school. We are expecting a 20% enrollment increase. Now, when we say that, and I think it's important to say, we've said it before, but in case this is your first time with us tonight, the overcrowding is really due to what we call the shrinking classroom. We can talk about the impact of move-in, move-outs, and single-family and multi-family, but honestly, it's a change. We have the same school buildings, right, for 100 years, yet we've added full-day kindergarten, which takes up classrooms. We have the mandates for special education and related services, which take up classrooms. We have English language learning students who require classrooms. We have basic skills strategy students that require classrooms. All of these things were not things that were in existence years and years ago. So we have the same footprint, right? And that's what we talk about by that shrinking schoolhouse. And I think that what the architects have designed, again, what this board and previous boards have planned for, is how to combat that for the future.
Anyone else?
When you guys met with the commissioners, what was the feedback from them regarding these additional buildings and the apartments? I don't know if this is a question for you or maybe for them. What was the feedback? Are they going to continue with the builds? Are they going to continue with all of that? And the other part to that is, you know, they say that they're taxed a certain amount. One figure I heard was $2 million that they're taxed. But I feel like we don't benefit from that. I feel like our taxes continue to go up even though they're taxing them $2 million. We're still not going down, we just keep going on the rise. So I'm just curious if they're going to put a halt to these buildings Or,
So, it's a great question. And let me just start by saying, and then again, if anybody else wants to jump in. This has come up a lot during our town halls. And when I answer this, I want you to be clear and understanding. The Board of Education is separate from the commissioners, is separate from the Planning and Zoning Board. We can tell an impact, we can go to a meeting. We are not the people that vote, the commissioners, except for those that are appointed to the boards or appoint to the boards, are not the ones making those decisions. And we've had a really good education during this process, right? We've told the impact, there are impact studies going back 20 years that say that these buildings are going to have impact. But one of the things we learned, I don't know if it was at the zoning and planning board, but it was a really interesting perspective that I hadn't thought of. So what do you do with an abandoned gas station, maybe toxic ground around it that's becoming a haven for maybe people you don't want in your neighborhood, bringing in culture that you don't want, drugs or whatever? What do you do with that? Well, if you have a developer who's willing to take that and make it into something that's not an eyesore, who's willing to take that and turn it into something that can be a rateable, meaning you can charge taxes for, would you rather have the empty, ugly gas station, or would you rather have something that generates taxes that you wouldn't be afraid to walk past on your way to school or work? And that perspective, I think, is a really important perspective. I can't imagine that you're going to stop all developments. I can't imagine, because you do need those rateables to offset the taxes, right? Unfortunately, taxes continue to go up in every community, in every state in the country. New Jersey has a 2% municipality cap. It's also a 2% cap on the Board of Education. God bless you. Our budget can never go up. Our school board budget cannot go up above 2% without the community voting on that. That's true of also the township. So the level of growth is dependent on the rateables. Losing Roche was another thing that I've been schooled on a lot since I've been here, and what that's meant to taxes in town. And I think your commissioners, I think not just your elected officials, but your appointed officials are incredibly mindful. And I'm hopeful that we'll all continue to work together, even though we're separate entities, to look at all facets of the community to be able to come together. And whether we can solve every problem, I don't know, but to at least raise awareness where we can.
Any other questions?
Hi there, Joanne Mazer, Kilblock. I have 2 children in Washington Elementary School. Just a comment and a quick question. Comment, I echo Mrs. Riley. I'm very pleased with what has been presented here tonight. I'm also very impressed by your ability to answer our questions. My question is with respect to moving forward. I noticed one of the steps is to engage community action groups. Would you speak a little bit about those groups and the role that they will play in moving this project forward?
Yes, thank you for asking. So we really need your input going forward. You know, at every single town hall, and I see some of the people who have come to us, not all of the questions and comments have been about taxes or what's in this plan. Sometimes people are saying to us, hey, if you get this space, can we use it for this? Can we look at recess in a different way with an extra multi-purpose room? Can we look at rainy day activities? Can we look at the after-school program? All of those things we want to keep you engaged with. We also need people to, as we go forward, if the board votes to put forward the referendum on March 13th, Monday, the public is welcome to come. We need you to continue the momentum. We will keep coming to all your neighborhood meetings. We'll keep talking about this. We'll continue to answer questions as they come up. I would expect that as we hear back from the state, we'll be having another town hall meeting to say, hey, this is what the state's telling us, this is our new information. We are incredibly committed, if you haven't noticed already, to keeping those lines of communication open and to keeping people engaged in this process, not just up until a vote. I want to be clear about that. We'll need a vote if we go that direction, but we need you to stay engaged as we do the construction, as we reutilize that educational space, as all of your principals look at the different learning communities, different schedules. We'll need you for all of that. You've had an opportunity to be able to input your contact information already, and we'll be, as I said, as we morph from getting information to giving information, you'll be able to continue to add your name and contact so we can get you involved. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Going once? Going twice? There we go. I knew we'd get one more. Charlie, real quick to your right.
Yeah, I spoke to my neighbors, just get the feeling after my in the first meeting at Yanaka. And yeah, she hear most complaints here and there, but there are also people supporting it. But the concern they have, tax has been increasing in this town for years. In fact, the 2% have been mentioned was placed not long ago. I mean, a few years ago, I think during the Governor Christie's, that's what they talked about. But prior to that, the tax was higher every year. In fact, one of the body of the property was decreasing, the property tax was increasing. I experienced that myself. My tax has been almost double actually since I purchased the house about 9 years ago. So there are 2 points in here. One, some of the complaints you hear is the quality has been declined at some point, but this may be one case of improving the quality. The other is, since tax was going up prior to this 2% cap, I'm surprised you're only getting 2.4, 2 point something million out of all of this charge. So, not necessarily because of the cap, but this is the highest tax in the area. I mean, this out of New Jersey. New Jersey in general is high, but this town is also one of the highest. And they have been collecting taxes, this corporation, but you're only getting 2.5%. Less than 3 million out of the 68 million.
So let's make sure we have the question. The question is, why are we only putting 2.4 million towards?
Correct.
Okay, so our business administrator is going to talk to you a little bit about that.
So you build the capital reserve fund by the money that you have in your actual budget each and every year that you may have set aside for contingencies that are left over at the end of each year. So for instance, you set aside so much money for heat and snow removal, and we get very lucky to have a winter like we've had this year. So it's not going to snow. I'm convinced. I'm not a winter person. So we will have some money left over at the end of the year because we didn't need it for those contingencies. So each year we've been able to take that money to start to build this. About 5 years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago, we actually only had less than $100,000 in that fund. So the fact that this Board of Education has been able to set aside $2.4 million to help offset the tax impact is very significant. Because as Dr. Glazer stated, we can only increase our budget by 2% on the tax levy each year, and that's only about $1 million. So with everything going up, costs of fuel increasing, cost of pensions increasing, healthcare increasing, it becomes very difficult each and every year to be able to stay within that limit. So the mere fact that this Board of Education has $2.4 million set aside to fund this is very significant. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, this is an 100 years old school. I was expecting that the town, out of all the high tax, would always have something set aside for future plan. Even now, it's only 20 years, but 20 years is long from what we are doing right now. But I've been here almost 20 years. I think this is going to come back again in 60 for elementary and middle school and a little bit of the high school improvement. 70 million out of this community is not it's significant, but when you look at it, it's only going out for 1 year. So I don't see that long-term solution for questions in here that will be. There will always be complaints whenever this increase happen. I don't see the long-term solution. I'm sorry I didn't ask this in the first day because I was trying to understand it myself, but there's always tax increase. There's always, not beside this one, and then there's always also going to be a need for improvement. So out of this proportion, I was thinking there is more than what you just mentioned to be aside. But again, you mentioned about the increase of cost of other things as well.
Well, I'm gonna just try to fill in with Karen. You can kind of help out if necessary, but what we do each year, we have a long-range facility plan, we have maintenance reserve, so in our budget, we make sure that we have funds available to identify needs that will develop. I know one of the questions that you said, or one of the statements that you had made with regard to the $68 million, and it may be not creating a permanent solution. A permanent solution is a tough thing, no matter how we try to accomplish it. When you're dealing with schools and you're dealing with how schools age, the closing, or the capacity of the shrinking schools, you're always going to be in some situation, somewhere in the long term, that you're going to have to do updates. Because you can't build a new school every time it reaches its 50-year lifespan or 100-year lifespan. You just can't knock it down and build another. So you make sure you maintain the properties the best that you can. You have the long-range facilities in place so that we have dedicated funds to keep the buildings the best that they can be. And you know, as the dynamic in the schools change, we may have to go back to communities down the road to do other things. I'll give you an example. If we're correct in our vision of this being a 20-year solution, and in year 25, when our bond was finished, and we had to then do additional expansion, we would be rid of all of any debt that is currently on our budget, and which is a significant number. So when we get to that year 25, and we did not have to do any expansions because this solution was the correct one, and we did it in one sweep, and we put ourselves in a position to be able to get rid of that debt that we've been carrying for years, then we're in a better place. We would actually see a tax reduction on that budget because the state debt aid, what we're paying in bond money, would come off. So strategically, long-term, financially, we would probably have a better looking budget by making this commitment now and riding out that 25 years and getting rid of all of the debt that we're carrying, which would better position us now. Any other questions? Now, you know the routine. I was going to say I'm going to go once, but you beat me to it.
What is left of the last bond, and where, and this bond to, where does that leave community financially? So our current debt that we are carrying was refinanced by this Board of Education to actually save money annually because we took advantage of the lower interest rates that were out in the marketplace. So the current bonds are not going to retire until 2034. And then this debt, the new debt, will carry for 25 years. So there will be a reduction in debt after 2034. How much is left on the first bond? What is the value in dollar amount? Oh, I don't have that off the top of my head. Because adding another 68 million to whatever we have would be a very large amount of money. No, that's the number that we presented this evening. That number that I presented is the additional tax impact on top of the current debt. So that's how much it would go up each year. No. I'm talking about the total debt of the township. Oh. What we have now and adding this, what does that bring us up to and where does that leave us as far as the standing financially as a community? I understand your question now. So this would bring us up to about $100 million. Because we basically have the 2007 bond left and a little bit on the 2003 and 2005. And our bonding capacity is about $105 million. That's just the school district. I don't know the towns.
Any other questions? Right behind you, Charlie.
Tax question.
We can't hear
Can you
you.
hear me?
Yep.
In January, I asked for the tax implications on commercial property. I just finally got it this afternoon. So with calculations on my property, they gave me some figures that I calculated. You're saying that for the homeowner, they're getting an increase of the first year $189, and then from year 2 to 25, they're getting $364 tax increase. That is right off the bat, that's going to be a standard tax increase just for this bond, correct?
Based on the assessed value of the average home.
That's correct. And so that's going to be standard. So everybody's taxes on an average is going to go up $364.
Based on the assessed value. So if the assessed value of your home is more, your assessed value of your property is
less,
more.
it'll go up less.
Exactly.
And everybody's is going to be different. The calculations that I was just given, I'm not a numbers person, I just did a quick calculation. Just on my property alone, just with this bond, my taxes are going to go up over $600 a year. Just on this, not including anything else, not including the normal tax increase, not including anything else that's going on in the town. That's a little bit concerning. But what are my taxes going to be at the end of the 25 years?
Well, I don't know what you purchased your property for, but you're clearly almost double the assessed value of the average home. So you've made an investment in this town, and it seems to be paying off so far. I hope that continues for you.
I put a lot of money into that building and, beautified that corner. And so, I take a lot of pride in my property. It doesn't mean that myself as a commercial property owner, and it doesn't mean that the residents who have put money into their homes to make them nice and make them comfortable and beautify the neighborhood should have to pay this exorbitant amount of taxes.
We can only put out the best solution. If you don't
I
vote for
understand
it, you
that.
don't vote for it.
I'm just stating what,
I
a lot of
I
people are
understand.
thinking. Because I hear this all the time, all day long, from people that talk to me about it. They're concerned about the tax increases. It is concerning. You can buy a house, but you might not be able to pay the taxes on it.
Okay, we have any newbies that would like to speak?
there's always good with bad, and you have to balance it all out, but that kind of stuff, increasing our school systems and increasing all of our, the size, you know, having trailers, that kind of stuff will increase everybody's property value. So you also need that.
I'd just like to make one comment. I don't want to single anyone out, but like the doctor said here, she'd spent a lot of money on her property here in the corner to remodel it, to upgrade it at her own expense. But now our school buildings are our property, and it's time to upgrade them, like you do your personal property. And it comes to all of us as an expense. But we have to make an investment in our community. And I know that people really don't want to hear that when they're only thinking about tax increase. But we're making an investment in our community, just like the doctor made an investment in her property to upgrade it and bring it more value.
Okay, so we're going to do the quick 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everyone.